All right, guys, we're gonna get started early because of what's going on later for me at least. Georgia completely steamrolls Michigan. The game's currently going on right now as JJ McCarthy overthrows who is that? Number 14 for Michigan. I knew everyone's name, and of course I forgot. But anyway, Georgia completely dominates Michigan tonight. This game was not close. Started out early. Georgia lost the toss. Michigan deferred in the first half. And a lot of Georgia fans, including myself, were a little bit worried as to what the offense would be in the first in the entire game. But Georgia started with the ball, and they just went down very quickly in this game. They went on a 7-play, 80-yard drive that only lasted 4 minutes. Stetson Bennett, I think, went 4 for 4 for what 58, 60 yards for a touchdown. Then Michigan gets the ball to start the game. For them, they go down. They're moving the ball quite well, and then they turn it over on downs. And ever since then, it was just all Georgia. But man, Georgia has just completely dominated Michigan on all phases of the ball. As that was actually a very nice throw by JJ McCarthy to Donovan Edwards. So Michigan might actually score a touchdown to end this game. But anyway, Georgia. First 5 possessions of the game, go down and score 5 times. They score 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. Michigan, the first 5 possessions they had, they only get 3 points. They throw an interception. Man, oh man, there's really nothing good you could say for Michigan in this game. I mean, Georgia held them to 25 yards rushing in the first half. That's terrible. I'll put it to you this way. In the first half of the Ohio State game, the entire Ohio State game, Michigan had 297. They had around 116 yards rushing in the first half against Ohio State. That tells you how much better Georgia's rush defense is. But man, it was around 13, 14, 15 carries in the first half, 25 yards. And then ever since then, Michigan just the entire game hasn't been able to run the ball. They're sitting at 78 yards rushing, way under their average. This is one of the best rushing offensive teams in the country. Georgia has just completely dominated. They've forced Michigan to throw the ball a lot more than they'd like. JJ McCarthy has looked better. I think he's the better QB. He's the 5-star talent. But man, Cade McNamara has had a terrible game. He is 11 of 19. I think he's done, by the way. I think he hurt his shoulder, but I don't know too much into that. He's only thrown for 106 yards, 2 interceptions, both to DK. Darion Kendrick has had a really good game, but shout out to Nakobe Dean, man. What a game he's had. 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, a couple QB hurries, a couple really good tackles, a couple tackle for losses. In my opinion, he's the player of the game. They're going to probably give it to Stetson Bennett. Nakobe Dean probably won't even win the defensive player of the game. But man, and then you look what Stetson Bennett has done. He's thrown for 310 yards on Michigan's defense, and in only 30 attempts, 20 of 30 for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns. Shout out to Stetson Bennett. He's had a really good game. Georgia has had the same amount of carries as Michigan in this game. They've had, 50 more yards rushing so far. Again, this game is about to end. This game is pretty much over. Georgia's up by 31 with 7:30-something left. Michigan is about to score, or Michigan's probably about to score anyway. Georgia might get a stop, but it doesn't really matter. Georgia and Alabama will meet in the national title game in Indy. It's going to be awesome. Rematch of the SEC title game of the year before Georgia went to Tuscaloosa and lost to Alabama. The same score, 41-24. It was pretty much the same story as this past year. But man, oh man, what a game for UGA. Playing against the best offensive line in the country, completely dominating them. Michigan's offensive line has dominated pretty much every game this year. They've had some struggle points like against Rutgers, like against Michigan State. They ended up losing that game, but not like this. This has just been a complete domination. Michigan's best run, I think, came from Cade McNamara for 19 yards or 15, 18. No, Haskins has a 19-yard rush, but that's pretty much it. They've only had three good runs. That's about it. Blake Corum, Michigan's probably their best player, or their best offensive weapon, at least in my opinion. 3 carries, 6 yards. He's had 2 catches for -2 yards. He's had a drop. What a terrible game. But here's Michigan. It's now 2nd and goal at the 5.5 with 7:40 left. But that's pretty much it, man. Georgia completely dominated on all phases of the ball. Only downfall you could say was back in the first half. Georgia was it the interception? Yeah, they get the interception, and their clock management looked terrible to end the first half. They don't end up getting any points. They had a timeout. They had a minute left. They had the ball at the Michigan 37 after a targeting call that didn't really make too much sense, but it is what it is. Targeting rules are insane. I guess based off of the rule, Chris Smith did lead, and that's a drop touchdown for Michigan. But Christopher Smith did lead with his head, and it is what it is. I think Georgia had 5 sacks in this game, right? I know Nakobe Dean had 1, Trayvon Walker had 1, Beal had 1. Did Nolan Smith have 1? Pretty sure, and then I'm missing another one. But yeah, Georgia completely dominated. Let me get into the comments. I'm way behind. Here's our good friend George. I feel sorry for Georgia. They look like Alabama's going to be. We'll see about that. Maybe the Georgia loss to Alabama was. Yeah, I think it was another drop touchdown for Michigan. Man, that's Ali too. He's had a really good game for Michigan. He's pretty much been the only bright spot for Michigan. But we'll see if Michigan can score to make this 30. Oh, man, Nakobe Dean is down. Hopefully he's okay. Great. See what happened. I think he'll be okay. I don't know. Man, Michigan. And that wasn't even Ali that dropped that. But look at Nakobe Dean with another QB hurry. Man, what a game. But anyway, you guys are talking about Ohio State. Would actually challenge Georgia, or I would probably expect that too. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this about Michigan. Michigan's offense does not match up well with Georgia's defense. This is Kirby Smart's MO, rush defense. He's the best coaching mind on planet Earth when it comes to rush defense, especially his 3-4 scheme. Add that in with Dan Lanning, and even throw in Muschamp, even though Muschamp's more of a defensive back guy. But those are 3 of the best defensive minds in all of college football. But this is Kirby's MO. He's going to force you to pass the ball. I mean, come on. Doesn't matter how good your offensive line is. Georgia's defensive line completely dominated this game. Trayvon Walker had a really good game. I didn't really talk about him as much. I know he had a sack. He had a couple tackle for losses. Did he force I think he did force a fumble that Michigan recovered. Wyatt played well. Jordan Davis had a couple good tackles. Jalen Carter played well. The interior, this is what Georgia's defensive line does really, really well. They play up to par every week. Now, the Alabama game, everyone played bad for UGA. One of the worst performances I've seen from UGA against Alabama. I don't expect that January 10th, but anyway, if the game was turned around, Stetson would still be in game. At least Michigan just okay. Here's the thing with Michigan, and they're not going to get this touchdown, this 4th and goal. So Michigan's going to be held to 3 points more than likely. He's going to lose. Edwards is going to lose a yard. That's another tackle for loss. Let's go. I wish they would keep a stat with tackle for losses. Maybe they do. I don't think they do on ESPN, but Georgia's had, I would say, at least 8 or 9 in this game, maybe even 10 or 11. Oh, you're talking about quarterback. Sorry, I got off track. But yeah, Stetson Bennett would probably still be in the game. But Stetson Bennett had a really good game. Give him credit. He threw one terrible pass across his body, getting pressured. We were up 27-3. You have no business throwing that ball across your body into triple coverage. Luckily, it was an interception, but intercepted. But other than that, he played really, really well. Give Todd Monken a lot of credit. Let me get into the wide receiver and tight end stats. I didn't really look too much for some reason. But Todd Monken, one of the best offensive minds. You see all these misdirections. Look at James Cook. What a game for James Cook. I know he had over 100 yards. He had 100 yards. He had 4 catches for 109 yards, a touchdown. He also had 6 carries for 32 yards. Georgia was just getting it done. Brock Bowers, he had pretty much all his catches in the first half, in the first quarter, really. 5 catches, 55 yards, a touchdown. That 135-yard bomb. What an amazing catch. I know this doesn't really count, but Kyrus Jackson had that nice catch over the middle. We got that taken away because of a holding. What an amazing catch. The ball was a little bit overthrown, but man, everyone came to play today for Georgia. Jermaine Burton had 1 catch for 57 yards. I don't know what happened to Michigan's most talented defensive back. He kind of just quit on the play. Again, that was the weirdest technique I've ever seen. And it turned out to be a Georgia touchdown, so I can't really say anything about that. He's one-on-one with Jermaine Burton. That's a really good matchup, by the way. It's not even like Jermaine Burton beat him. I don't even know. Again, I don't really know. But, and Kenny McIntosh had a touchdown pass, which was awesome to see. That is something I haven't seen from UGA in a while, where they run that sweep and they, the running back throws a touchdown. So that's a Todd Monken-esque play. Love to see it. But anyway, my Cats played Georgia better than this. Are you talking about Kentucky? Georgia just had something to prove today. They knew coming into this game that this was not going to be easy for them. I don't think they expected it to be easy for them. The score may show that it was pretty easy, and they kind of played it well. But before this game, we knew that Michigan and Georgia were 2 evenly matched teams, if we're being real here. Michigan probably has the 2 better edge rushers, Hutchinson and what is his name? Number 55. I can't even remember now. Anyway, Hutchinson especially, he's going to be a top 3 overall pick. But these are 2 evenly matched teams. Both teams, this Michigan team really reminded me of 2017 Georgia. Let's just be real here. They had 2 really good running backs that are, one's a senior, Haskins. Georgia had 2 senior running backs. Other one's Corum. But, Haskins is a guy that's going to run up and down on you. And he can actually make some plays through the passing game now, which is nice for Michigan. Obviously, they're going to miss that next year unless he has an extra year, which I don't think he does. But, those running backs, that duo is one of the best duo in the country. It might even be the best duo in the country. They have a game manager quarterback. Jake Fromm and Cade McNamara are pretty similar, except McNamara is a little bit faster, and I think Jake Fromm is a little bit better through the air. Offensive line, the best offensive line in football. I would still say Michigan had it, although they struggled today. But even, let's just talk before the game. Georgia had probably the best offensive line in 2017, and their wide receivers. Michigan has a couple decent wide receivers. Georgia had probably a better wide receiving core than this Michigan team. But defensively, they were both top 5. Georgia had probably the best defense, second best defense because of Alabama in 2017, but still, they were pretty similar. Look at the stats. McNamara had only threw for 2,400 or 2,300 yards, maybe 2,400 yards this year. Jake Fromm only threw for about 2,000. Their running backs combined for 2,700 yards rushing or something like that. Georgia's combined for like 2,600. So the stats were pretty similar. And then obviously the defenses, but that's what that team reminded me of. And this Georgia team is a little bit different in ways, but both these teams like to set the tone early, and they like to live off of that offensive line and defensive line. And Georgia set the tone early, and from then on, this game just wasn't competitive. I personally thought this game was going to be much closer, obviously. I think a lot of people did. I thought this was going to be a very defensive game, like a 20-13 type game, and it pretty much was a defensive game. but Michigan couldn't get. I mean, for Georgia, but Michigan just couldn't get any stops in the first 5 possessions. And then the game was pretty much over. Michigan's offense is not built to come back from 27-3. They're just not. They were 12-1 before this game. Every game that they've played, they were they were ahead at half. They had one collapse against Michigan State. Okay, and that game had a lot of controversial calls, but you still lost. But it doesn't really matter. But Michigan sets the tone early. That's just what they do. They haven't seen a defensive line like this. Georgia has. Alabama's defensive line is top 3. Okay, Georgia's is top 3 as well. And Clemson, if Clemson's is healthy, they're top 3 as well. So those are probably your 3 best defensive lines. Michigan has not seen a team like this. Georgia has. Georgia just did. And Georgia just came off an embarrassing loss. They had something to prove today, and I'm sure they did. They're going to win this game. Oh, my goodness. It's 34-3 right now. There's still 4 minutes left. Man, this fourth quarter is going by pretty slow. This fourth quarter started about 40 minutes ago, man. But anyway, guys, somebody said, I love this. 20 of 30 for 310 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0. Also add on his rushing yards. He had over 30 yards rushing. He was putting on some juke moves, which were pretty impressive. He had 3 carries for 32 yards as well. What a day for Stetson Bennett. You love to see it. A lot of people, including me, were a little bit frustrated with the quarterback position at UGA, and he comes out. But all of it is pretty. I'm not going to give all the credit to Todd Monken, but a lot of the credit has to go to Todd Monken. Look at these plays. Michigan was just kept all on their toes the entire game, and Stetson Bennett was delivering the ball. He had 1 bad throw pretty much. Maybe 2 if you count the overthrow back in the third quarter, but that's it. He looked completely different than this Bama game, or this past Bama game that we had in the SEC title game. But man, what a day for Stetson Bennett. What a day for Georgia as a whole. Their defense, man. This is the best defense in the country. This defense lives up to any other defense there ever was. I'm just being real with you, man. Oh, they call that targeting? The game's still going on. They called a targeting on Chambles, I believe. Let's see. Incomplete pass, personal foul, and there's targeting, man. Come on. Anyway, Stetson Bennett did prove to the haters that he can deliver. The mailman delivers, as a lot of people called him. But, man, a lot of his wide receivers making a lot of good plays. Just the play calling, like I said. We ran a lot of screen passes. I don't know what it is with Michigan. They've had some troubles this year with running back screens, wide receiver screens. I don't understand it. Michigan's a really good rush defensive team too, which makes, kind of doesn't really make too much sense why they wouldn't be as good. But Todd Monken and Kirby Smart reviewed the game film on Michigan. They saw some holes in Michigan's defense, and they just exploited them to the T, really. And then it was Michigan's offense, like I said. They like to run those counters, running back counters. They didn't really run a jet sweep today, which was kind of interesting. They like to spread. Michigan's a really balanced rush team. They like to spread the field running the ball laterally, and they just didn't do that today. They couldn't because of the speed on Georgia's defense. I was literally saying that. I wasn't able to record or go join Mark Rogers in the preview. But some of the Michigan fans expected they were going to be able to do that in this game, and you just can't against Georgia's defense. I'm sorry, Georgia. Kirby Smart, like I said earlier, is the best defensive. And Georgia gives up a touchdown. Congratulations, Michigan. There you go. It's going to be 34-9, probably 34-10. It's going to be Anthony. I think he's a true freshman for Michigan, and I think that may have been his first or second touchdown of the year. Andrew Anthony. Well, there you go. Anyway, 34-10 is probably going to be the final. J.J. McCarthy throws a touchdown. It'll be his 5th touchdown pass of the year. It doesn't really mean anything. And Georgia covered the spread anyway. But anyway, what was I even saying about? I was talking about Michigan's rush offense, right? How they like to run the ball laterally. You just can't do that against UGA. I mean, the speed at every position. It's not just the cornerbacks. It's the linebackers, even the defensive ends. Nolan Smith is very, very fast. They're going to go for 2, and they're going to get it. All right, it's 34-11. It's going to be Henning. We haven't another guy we really didn't we really didn't hear about today was Henning for Michigan. He's their slot wide receiver. He had a decent game against Ohio State. I think if I'm not mistaken, AJ Henning. For the year, he's only a sophomore. He had a solid game against Ohio State. He's their backup slot. Didn't really hear about him today as much. Michigan's leading wide receiver turned out to be Donovan Evans, who's their running back. He caught that deep ball earlier. But anyway, keep getting off track with what I'm trying to say. I just forgot basically. But yeah, you weren't able to. You can't run the ball on Georgia. You just can't. The only team this year that has, and really, I don't really consider this extreme success, and that was Florida. They rushed for 163 yards on like 30 something carries, averaged about 3.1 yards per carry. That was pretty much it. That Florida is one of the best rushing offenses in the country too, and they were able to do a lot more. But a lot of that came from the quarterback position, and Michigan today just wasn't able to, which is another weird thing because in the Harbaugh playbook, he likes to run J.J. McCarthy a bit, and even Cade McNamara gets some touches in the run game. Didn't really see that much today. Cade McNamara did get sacked a bit, though. But anyway, let's get to some of these comments. Georgia's really good. However, Alabama is just great, and I hate saying that. This Georgia team, if you watch this game, this Georgia team will definitely compete with Alabama. If they play like this, they could even beat Alabama. I'm not getting ahead of myself and saying they will. If I had to pick a team right now as a Georgia fan, I'd probably still pick Alabama. I'm sorry. It's just Bama's game plan and Nick Saban's game plan is meant to be Kirby Smart's game plan and Kirby Smart's scheme 9 out of 10 times, okay? That's why he's undefeated against Kirby Smart. He's 4-0, and the games just keep getting worse and worse every year. These games are just not close. But we do get the rematch. Georgia had played them. Georgia played their worst game. Bama played their best game. So I expect this game to be a lot more competitive. Bama will probably be the favorite by a couple points, but still. Anyway, Kirby Smart sure is fired up and pissed off right now. Where was this anger when Bryce Young was shredding him? Look at Evans. Dwan Evans just pulled off a 25-yard run. I think you were talking about earlier. I missed it, honestly. I think you were talking about when Stetson Bennett just ran. I don't know. Something about, I saw it on my screen. Georgia got like a 4th and 2 or whatever. And Stetson Bennett's still out there. I mean, he's just going to run the ball, hand it off. But I don't know what he was fired up about. Anyway, does anyone know if the internet is out? Well, oh, yeah, Michigan fans are quiet. I got a lot of things from Michigan fans. But anyway, here's George. I just want my yard gnome back. Okay. Samaje Perine was a 3-star. Nice. He's one of the best Oklahoma running backs that they've had, especially in my time. I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan, and I live in Michigan. The internet is working. Oh, you're responding to him. Let me get down here. Georgia had a great game. No, Georgia had an amazing game. Michigan had their worst game. But listen, it comes down to scheming sometimes, and a lot of time, really, especially in the NFL. But in college, when you have 2 evenly matched teams, it's going to come down to the scheme. Georgia is a little bit more talented than Michigan. I get it. But still, when it comes down to teams like Georgia and Michigan, they both want to set the tone early. It's going to be who can do it better. And Georgia obviously did it better today. It's not a fluke. I was seeing, because I go on Instagram sometimes and Twitter, and people were saying it could have been like a fluke, blah, blah, blah. It was not a fluke. Georgia just manhandled Michigan. Georgia would beat Michigan almost every time that they would play. And there were a lot of Michigan fans in the Orange Bowl today. I mean, how many were there? I would probably say, and then looking at the stadium now, it was probably 60-40. I would say it was 60% Michigan fans. Michigan fans travel, you better believe, especially when they're good. Uh, Michigan had a really good season, but it comes down, like I said earlier, it comes down to scheming. And Georgia's and Kirby Smart, especially his 3-4 defensive scheme, works really, really well against the rush, especially laterally, and that's what Michigan does best. But then you look at the offensive side, and this was a little bit of a head scratching thing, especially with Michigan. And Michigan's burning timeouts. I don't know what that's about. There's 3:21 left, so I mean this quarter has been going on for 50 minutes, man. It, and anyway, I guess they want to make it look better. I don't know, but what was I saying? I keep losing track because I'm watching the game. But oh yeah, offensively, you got to give credit to Todd Monken and like I said, Stetson Bennett and all the players, offensive line. But those play calling, especially in the first quarter, just they were phenomenal. I mean, he's got Brock Bowers, and he enables pretty much everybody on the field. By the way, that's what good spread coordinators do well, and that's what Todd Monken does best at UGA, at spreading the ball out. We are going to get the ball to all of our playmakers, and we have a lot of playmakers. Uh, just naming a few. But just going back to the first drive, we ran that tight end wheel route that we like doing. We just did a flip and a wide receiver. We do this every now and then. A fake handoff sweep and pitch it to the wide receiver, to Ladd McConkey. He gets very creative, and that's what Todd Monken does best. He's one of the 5 best offensive minds in all of college football right now. A lot of Georgia fans were hating on him because of the Alabama game. The Alabama game could have been a fluke. And from watching this game and watching every other game, I kind of believe that. Watching Bama today, what'd Bama do today? They just ran the football. They couldn't really pass the ball well. Bama ran for 300 yards on Cincinnati. That's insane. But Cincinnati did a really good job in that pass defense, especially because they have a really good defensive back core. But watching Bama today, Bryce Young struggled, and when you get pressure on Bryce Young, he doesn't really do well. Georgia just didn't do that. Georgia was rushing 3 to 4, maybe even 5 guys at a time. 5 guys versus Bama's 5 offensive line. Bama's 5 offensive line were winning every time. And it wasn't like Georgia ever got to Bryce Young. They didn't. They had 0 sacks in that game. But the game plan for that will be something similar to this, as you saw today. I'm talking about offensively. We are going to spread the ball out. Stetson Bennett is going to have to throw for a lot against Alabama. The difference is he can't make any turnovers, and the difference defensively is we are going to have to rush and pressure Bryce Young. Brian Robinson didn't do much against us. He had that one really, really, really good run that was off a pitch from basically Bryce Young made the play anyway. But Brian Robinson had like 2.6 yards per carry or something like that. That's nothing. If you look what he did today, he had over 200 yards rushing. He was averaging like 5 or 6 yards per carry. But they were hard-earned 5-6 yards. I mean, he's running over Cincinnati guys, breaking tackles. And he won't be. I don't expect him to be much of a factor in this game. Georgia versus Alabama. If I had to predict right now, like I said, I'd probably take Alabama. And I know a lot of Georgia fans are going to hate me for that. And here's one right now. Georgia's going to beat Alabama. A lot's got to happen. How are we going to beat Alabama? It's going to come down to Stetson Bennett offensively. If he can control the game well, and I know that's game managing, okay, I get it. But if he can control the game well and not force the ball down the field for no reason, I think we'll be okay offensively. If you see the play calling from Todd Monken, he does really, really well with getting the ball, spreading it out. Like I said, Brock Bowers is going to have a good game. I keep hearing George Pickens' name. I mean, he hasn't really been targeted or on the field as much this year. So, I mean, even in these past 3 games. So I'm not really too worried about that. But our running backs are going to have a really good game. Our running backs today had like over 150 yards receiving. My goodness. Especially with James Cook. He's that H-back type of running back, or an H-back, not really running back, but you know what I mean. He's going to have a really good game. He's had really solid games against Alabama in the past, especially last year. He had a nice 80, 90-yard touchdown reception. But yeah, and defensively, that front seven is going to have to own that Alabama offensive line. Watching Cincinnati, Cincinnati was able to control what they could. They are not the most talented team in the country, obviously. They were obviously outmatched. But watching that front seven, I thought Cincinnati's front seven did a really good job in the pass defense game. Obviously, they did terrible against the rush, but that comes down to talent, okay? From scheming from Luke Fickell's defensive coordinator, they did a really, really good job in pass defense. They only gave up 150 yards passing. A lot of that comes down to the rush, but that's what Georgia has to replicate. Not the rushing yards, obviously, but the pass defense, okay, and getting to the quarterback. Bryce Young was sacked like once today, maybe twice. But that's one more or two more times than what Georgia was able to do. Okay. That's what Georgia needs. And Bryce Young forced some passes that he shouldn't have, and he threw a terrible interception. That's what Georgia needs in order to beat Alabama. They need their offensive line to play a little bit better than last time, probably a lot bit better. But they need their defensive linebackers to step up big time. And I think Georgia has a good shot. And Georgia finally wins this game at 11 p.m. Eastern time, 34 to 11 against Michigan. And that's pretty much it. But I give Georgia a shot against Alabama. I would hate to be that guy, but I got to go Nick Saban. I just don't like Kirby Smart's scheming against Nick Saban. I've been watching it, especially the past two times, man. The past two times, the score has been replicated the same. It's 41-24, but the past two times, the defensive scheme has kind of been questionable. Hasn't been getting to the QB as well. And then the offense, we've had, Stetson Bennett turn the ball over. If Stetson Bennett doesn't turn the ball over, and Georgia is able to get to Bryce Young, I think Georgia can win the game. Okay, that's going to be the difference in the game, obviously. But anyway, I'm about to get out of here, guys. Let me read some more comments for you. The SEC has looked horrible, other than these two teams. Facts. The SEC has looked disappointing, and I've been high on Texas A&M all year, and I just feel like this. I feel like they really, really, really should have forfeited, and they should have a loss to Wake Forest. Even though I know Wake Forest did get an opponent, Texas A&M is lucky, but NC State should have got a win too, which made no sense. But the SEC was 1-5 before today in bowl games. South Carolina put a beating on North Carolina. I mean, the bowl games have been weird this year for the games that have been played. But anyway. GGUGA, shout out to this Michigan fan. Sorry it didn't go your way today. Michigan had a really, really, really good season. I mean, let's just talk about Michigan, what they were able to accomplish this year before I get off of here. They were able to beat Ohio State. They were able to beat the Big Ten, but they were projected to be fourth, or some sites had them even fifth in the Big Ten East. Fifth. I had Michigan, I think, tied for second. I obviously had Ohio State beating them, but they were able to beat Ohio State. But they were only projected to be at 8 wins this year. They go ahead and make the college football playoff. Shout out to Jim Harbaugh. I love Jim Harbaugh. I know a lot of Michigan fans were frustrated with him. Hopefully, you're not anymore. But it is what it is. You guys had a really good season. You have nothing to be ashamed of. It's cold. It's academic. Unless you're prepared to go all in for football, winning the Big Ten is our ceiling. Michigan fans, I understand what you're saying. You got a star in the making in JJ McCaffrey. I said McCaffrey, yeah. McCarthy. Goodness. I've been following JJ McCarthy for a long time, and I really messed up his name. Anyway, JJ McCarthy is QB1. He is going to be a star for Michigan. I'm telling you right now. He has a lot of potential. He is going to be very, very, very good for you guys in the next coming years. He should be QB1. But anyway, I'm I'm reading through these comments. But anyway, guys, Georgia versus Alabama in the national title, 2022 national title. Look at Stetson Bennett out here having the game of his life, and shutting down all these haters. And he did it against a top 5 defense, by the way. Or well, Michigan was okay. Let me rephrase that. He did it against a top 10 defense. Okay, something that no one said he could do. And he goes out and throws for 310 yards, 3 touchdowns, rushes for 32 yards, and comes home with a 34-11 W against Michigan. But anyway, guys, Georgia fans, we're off to Indy as we take on Alabama in the national title. Hope to see you guys after. Oh, I don't know if I'll see you guys after the national title. We'll see how that goes. But I hope Georgia is able to pull it off and beat Alabama. They're going to have a lot of things go their way and scheme a little bit better than the past couple times. But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Go Dogs, baby.